Okay, so we will start now. So, first of all, good
Okay.
afternoon, everyone participating in this session. I hope each one of you is experiencing success in your individual business endeavors. So, before starting into the content of our webinar, I would like to take a brief moment to provide an introduction to the Asian Exporters Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and as well as share some insights about myself. So, to all my esteemed guests, I am Tehri Mullah, privileged to hold the position of the Executive Director at AECCI. AECCI stands as a distinguished trade organization acknowledged by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. Our organization is actively engaged in initiatives designed to offer crucial assistance to esteemed exporters and importers involved in international trade. And the Chamber has strategically developed numerous development services to bolster private sector initiatives in industry, trade, and services within the Asian community. So each participant's presence here today is highly valued, and we are thrilled to have you join us for this insightful webinar. And as a distinguished trade body in India, our vision is centered around the creation of meaningful contributions that withstand the test of time. And ACCI's core value are firmly grounded in principles such as independence, neutrality, honesty, safeguarding our clients' right, and ensuring confidentiality, demonstrating promptness and responsibility, and also delivering exceptional performances and nurturing a cohesive team spirit. So, the realization of these values is facilitated by prioritizing our customers and establishing a robust system and strategically planning for the long term success of our clients' businesses. So, the Chamber's vision is to see a voluntary partnership of businesses and professionals working together to build a healthy and prosperous economy with an improved quality of life in the community. And thus, with the guidance of our esteemed Honorable Chairman, Sri Zahir Bukhari, we have been accomplishing and thriving hard to do so. So today we are privileged to welcome a distinguished professional expert, Mr. Rohit Kumar, a seasoned advocate specializing in constitutional matters, arbitrational disputes, commercial suits, service matters, healthcare environment, prevention of corruption, copyright, patent suits, etc. He has done some notable work in corporate laws, intermediary liabilities, data protection, healthcare laws, OTT regulations, e commerce, and many more. So, we are thrilled to announce that Mr. Rohit has recently joined AECCI as a professional expert, extending his expertise to benefit our esteemed members. So, before we dive into our agenda, let's take a moment for our esteemed speaker to introduce himself. So, Mr. Rohit, over to you.
Thank you, Tareem. Thank you. I think you have already spoken so much about me. I would first of all like to thank Mr. Harish also, who is facilitating with me from last 2 or 3 days. And of course, the Asian Exporters Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I think this organization itself has a bright future ahead, synergizing with different corporate houses and individual who are into export business, providing legal assistance and also a platform to make voice inside and outside the policy making chambers. So I think today's topic itself is a very, very interesting topic. And I think all the exporters should understand and take advantage of international trade and agreements, how it works. So before going into the topic, I just take like 30 seconds to introduce myself. Presently, I am advocate on record, Supreme Court of India. So I argues the matters for the client before the Supreme Court and also other judicial forums in Delhi, different high courts, NCLTs, and also advise in their non-litigation work, make their contracts, and also represent them before the arbitral tribunals. I have a 3 years of in-house experience working for Google, Snapchat, and also with the TikTok. So in all these three organizations, also I have seen that how the foreign money comes into India, and what are the rules and regulation that governs the flow of that money in India, and uh, what are the trade relation and how different geographical issues, politics goes around impact the investments.
Right.
So yeah, if you allow me, we can start this discussion on free trade agreement in international trade.
Yes, Mr. Rohit, we extend our sincerest gratitude for joining us today. Your presence is truly an honor for us. And as we delve into the agenda, I urge everyone to seize the opportunity and explore the contributions of free trade agreements in international commerce. Your presence adds immense value to our discussion, and we eagerly anticipate a session filled with valuable insights and engaging discourse. So, in today's session, our focus is to provide valuable insights into free trade agreements. And this webinar is designed to offer a deep understanding of FTAs to participants, including exporters, importers, entrepreneurs, newcomers, and manufacturers. And throughout the session, we will cover essential topics such as the core principles of FTAs, type of FTAs, their benefits, and the steps involved in negotiating and implementing an FTA, and the impact on industry. We will also discuss how businesses can make the most of FTA provisions and consider strategic aspects of international trade under FTAs. And as the host of this session, I'll be posing some common questions that frequently come our way from our exporter members in their day to day export activities. And today, given the privilege of having an expert like Mr. Kumar with us, I'll be initiating a one on one dialogue by presenting my queries, and our expert will graciously share his expertise with us throughout his presentation. And as we dive into each segment, I encourage you to actively engage, ask questions, and make the most of this opportunity to enhance your understanding of free trade agreement in international commerce. So, Mr. Rohit, now without further ado, I would like to start with my queries and invite you to take the virtual stage and commence your presentation and share your screen with us. And simultaneously, I will start with my queries.
Can you see my screen, Raj?
Yes.
Okay, so uh, I just take one step further, and before going into the free trade agreement, I would like to give you that how a free trade agreement actually relevant for India and for the Asian country itself. So you may imagine that once we before 1992, before the economy was not liberalized, our what we were doing was actually happening inside India. So our export rules were so stringent that we were not allowing the international trade partners to do a business in India and the vice versa.
Right.
Coca-Cola and other different companies came India, but they left sometime in 1993, 1994, because we have certain very difficult regulations
Right.
and red tapeism. Sorry, I think there's a question. Uh,
No, no, you may please continue.
Okay. So Coca-Cola and other different companies were, initially during 1980s, late 1980s, they wanted to do certain business in India, but ultimately they left because our rules and regulation were not favoring their expansion plans. So what happens in this period when 1991 Narasimha Rao government was leading the country and internationally various things happening, including the establishment of World Trade Organization, we call it as WTO. Why
Right.
WTO was important initially? Because uh, under the UN regime, when international peace and harmony was the core principle, people started looking at as a business opportunity also,
Right.
and they want to delve into a system where international trade can facilitate without any fetter, without any discrimination. So the negotiations were going on for a very long time. It started sometime in 1972, and by 1991, 1992, when India was also about to liberalize their economy, the negotiations were going on.
Hmm.
Finally, in 1995, when WTO set up as a body in Geneva, there are member countries agreed, but India, Brazil, Saudi Arab, South Africa, all these developing countries took a back seat and said that no, we are not going to join immediately. We'll see that what is the benefit for us in the system. So they took a time, and 1995, when India took a lead and they decided to sign the WTO agreement, uh, further opening the doors for the international trade partners to come in the Indian market and do business.
Hmm.
Saudi Arab, South Africa, Brazil, four important countries, which are now BRIC countries. They also took up lead and follow the Indian pursuit and joined the World Trade Organization. Why understanding World Trade Organization is important? Because the free trade agreement is the agreement between two countries or more than two countries, but they follows the principles, the rules and regulation
Hmm.
given by the international regime under the WTO framework.
Great points. Like FTAs contribute to fostering international trade relationships by removing or reducing barriers to trade between participating countries. Building on that, sir, my next question is, how do FTAs contribute to fostering international trade relations?
Right. So, for example, let's just see from the perspective that if we have a very good relationship with our neighboring countries, we are doing sharing our borders. Our water is going through rivers, cross rivers. Sometimes we have little disputes regarding infiltrations and also with cross border pollution. These are very these are some aspects of international relation where where a relationship can foster or disturb with the neighboring country. But imagine a country which is not sharing our border, but in a different continent altogether, in Africa or in US, where we don't have a very close proximity, but some relationship, some understanding, some sort of affinity between two countries. And other country, for example, United States. United States are
Hmm.
altogether from a very long time is a developed country. EU is a very developed zone,
Hmm.
but we don't have a border sharing with them. So, just to make our friendship more strong, what we realized, the Indian and the developing country also realized that let's start doing some trade with them, because the moment we start doing trade, our other avenues will become open. For example, if we start doing trade
Hmm.
today, and in the future we can also take a route of a soft diplomacy, introduce our culture, introduce our films, introduce our art in the country, and that is how the international trade also become a tool for fostering our relationship with that country. So in that aspect, international trade agreements,
Hmm.
because it's also impacting the economy of both the countries, the importer and the exporter country, also impact our relationship on different aspects. So this is a very simplest way of looking at it. Another very important aspect is that uh, in international relation, otherwise, if you look at the principles of the public international law, we have United Nations as a body, we have UNICEF, we have WHO.
Hmm.
One country cannot run the organization. They need funds. They need other support. For example, India cannot give a fund, but we can give a manpower.
Hmm.
So a peacemaker team can go in different country, or we can give a technology. COVID was a classical example when United Kingdom developed, Oxford University developed a Covishield vaccine, but it at a mass level it got manufactured by an Indian company,
Hmm.
Serum Institute in Pune. So, these are the aspect one, because for India and UK has a great trade relation, but we don't have a free trade agreement yet. But looking at from the perspective that how international cooperation work together if to tackle the emergencies, but it was a trade at the end of the day. Two countries were, trading. One country was giving technology, other was, manufacturing at a large scale, providing it to the world at large. So this is how, trade cannot be dissociate from our relationship with our neighbors and with our international trade partners or international partner per se.
Well said, sir. So, moving forward, like free trade agreements come in various types, and understanding the differences between them is crucial for businesses to effectively navigate the distinctive characteristics of each type. So, can you explain the different types of free trade agreements, like such as bilateral and multilateral agreements, and how businesses can strategically navigate the unique aspects of each type?
Right. So, just for the benefit of our audience, I just want to tell that what exactly this term free trade agreement means.
Sure.
So, anyone can, very simply understand that what are trade agreements. Like if you and I are sitting together, we discuss agreement, and the fine lines of the agreement between you and me, that you know what are your deliverables, what are my obligation and liabilities, it become an agreement.
Right.
Okay. Any two people can do this agreement. Two countries can do it. Two individuals can do it. It's a simple trade agreement. But why this word free comes into picture? This is important because when you go in the past, when developed countries like United States and European countries, they understand that their market is also outside their own geography. It's not just restricted to in their geography, but they also started looking at the another country as their market. They developed this idea of negotiating trade agreements with their partner countries. And what they, because once you go and tell, hey, you want to do a business with me, the other person would ask that what is your offer, what do you want to give it to me in return. So in return, what they gave us, they said that you do a trade with me, and I will not take a tax. I will give certain relaxation in tariff. I can facilitate your trade in a
Hmm.
swift manner in my country. So whenever these restrictions um, are not in the agreement, and or we reduce a restriction on international trade, it become a free trade agreement. That is why both the countries feel free to trade between each other, and also in the region, because they know that if I'm exporting something to United Nation, or United Kingdom, or UAE or USA or Australia,
Right.
Indian company would feel that I don't have to pay a taxes there, because it is as simple as doing a business in India
Hmm.
in the partner countries, and vice versa. The companies from United United Nation, oh sorry, United Kingdom, or from Australia, they can feel the same type of privilege, and they want to do a business in India without any uh, trade barriers, or custom duties, or other type of tax relaxations. Their intellectual property becomes very easy, approvals become very easy in the country. So if you understand the term of the free trade agreement, then I'll tell you then what is the meaning of different type of trade agreements. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So for example, that if we just look at the broad picture of the free trade agreement, there are three type of trade agreements. Bilateral, multilaterals are depending on the party, so it is one bucket. Another is the comprehensive,
Hmm.
and then it's a limited. So I'll give you the example of all these one by one. So when two countries do a business together, it's a bilateral, because bi means two, and when we discuss something, it become a bilateral agreement. Example, India did its first free trade agreement with Sri Lanka. It
Hmm.
was a bilateral trade agreement.
Okay. Yes.
uh, Multilateral trade agreement, when more than one country become the part of the trade agreement. So SAFTA is an example, South Asian Free Trade Agreement, where SAARC countries are doing business together. Uh, Now South Asian countries are doing business together in a region. It is also a regional agreement, but because multiple parties are involved, so it's a multilateral trade agreement. The real distinction happens in the comprehensive and limited agreements. Okay.
Okay.
So what happens is that if a poor country, or country in transition, or country under development, they do some trade agreement with a developed country, they have very small thing, very specific things to offer, and that is why their limitation of offering something to to their business partner become a problem for them. So what they do a trade agreement in a limited manner, and that is why it is called a limited free trade agreement. For example, India has a trade agreement
Hmm.
with Chile.
Okay.
It's a very small country, not economically very strong, so India agree to provide some services in Chile, and vice versa, on a limited goods and services. Whereas when we talk about comprehensive agreement, Comprehensive agreement actually covers whole lot of other goods and services. For example, India has done comprehensive trade agreements with Japan,
Hmm.
Australia, UAE, ASEAN, where not just the manufacturing good, agriculture goods are also coming, services are coming like softwares. Indian professional can also take advantage in Australia, and also in UAE, Singapore. These are comprehensive trade agreements because it's not just restricted to one good or service, but it is also covering different type of goods and services to the partnering countries. And these, by the way, these the name itself suggests that these are economically stronger countries. Japan, UAE, Australia, Singapore, these are economically advanced, and that is why they are in position to offer uh, more than one goods and services to the partnering countries. Regional agreements, again, very very important, because if you look at the map of the world, NAFTA, North Atlantic Free Trade Agreement. So North Atlantic Free Trade Agreement, it means that all the North Atlantic countries were the part of the free trade agreements. It was signed very early in 1972, but ratified sometime in 1992, 1993, when George Senior Bush, the Senior Bush, become the president of the uh, United States, and then it was ratified by Clinton government. So
Hmm.
it was a very big block of countries trading together. Similar example we have seen in Asia, where ASEAN countries, South Asian, Southeast Asian nation, ASEAN, and other, we have SAFTA. Another example, SAFTA is also a regional agreement. uh, by the way, ASEAN India FTA, or ASEAN in FTAs is the world biggest FTAs presently operating in a very good manner. China is also trying to enter with India through ASEAN, but because of some uh, issues with China, we are still not able to negotiate properly with countries like China.
Correct.
So this is like not, it is also a diplomatic relation and also a political reason, that what you cannot do directly, you can do indirectly. So if India and China cannot do a free trade agreement directly, they become the part of the ASEAN free trade agreement, and they can at least negotiate something on their business needs.
Well
So
articulated. So, like businesses must tailor their strategies based on the type of free trade agreement they are involved in, and understanding the unique aspects of bilateral, multilateral, regional, and other agreements allows businesses to navigate trade dynamics successfully and capitalize on the opportunities presented by each arrangement. So, and to my understanding, companies can derive various specific benefits from engaging in free trade agreements. So, can you please elaborate on the specific advantages that businesses can gain by participating in free trade agreement?
right, so this slide becomes very important to understand that what are uh, the benefit for the businesses. So for example, exporters often give high tariff rates in exporting in different countries where there is no FTAs.
Hmm.
But understand one thing, when so you can compare, like if a exporter is doing business in different countries like Hong Kong, or in originated in India but doing business in Hong Kong, or in Russia, or in part of a Europe where we don't have a free trade agreement, compare with the person who's doing a trade with Australia or UAE or Japan. They are in a good position to understand that they are paying very less taxes, or no taxes or no tariff in the countries where we have a free trade agreement, and that's the only advantage. When we say tariff duties will become really zero or nil, uh, for example, if something is coming from uh, Australia to India, uh, um, the source country price is X,
Hmm.
uh, and when it landed in India, after taxes, after custom duties, etc., etc., the price of the product will become very high. So the Indian seller is started selling high, and the buyers will hesitate in taking it because of the price issue. But the advantage of free trade agreement is that when something actually start from Australia come to the India,
Hmm.
so the price is almost the same
Hmm.
when it started from Australia to landing in India. And the Indian traders who are importing and selling it in the open market in India, they
Hmm.
can sell it at a much lower prices, because now there is no custom duties, there is no GST, there is no other type of taxes, in indirect taxes
Hmm.
applies on those goods and services, and the vice versa. Like when Indian exporters start sending something in the partner country, they will also get a similar benefits and similar type of advantages. So tariff is very, very important. And the purpose of free trade agreement, when actually it was introduced in WTO regime, was to give a tariff relaxation only. But later on, some different type of advantage were added, and now that is why it become very comprehensive, and every trade negotiation has a peculiar clauses, and also some special privileges are given to the partner countries. For example, SWIFT approvals is another example. So if two countries have a trade relationship under a free trade regime, uh, getting regulatory approvals become very easy. You apply for a trademark in UAE, you will get very easily, or in Australia or in Japan, you get very easily compared to Germany or France. Uh, India also, become a very important strategic partner for this for these countries, specifically for countries in the Middle East, because we have good manufacturing facilities on pharmaceuticals, software, education, iron and ore, which these countries lacks. So when Indian partners want to do business in UAE or in different free trade partners, they get very swift approval. The example I have written here, for example, if Indian pharma company want to get the approval for selling medicines in UAE, they get nine approvals in within 90 days. Otherwise, it takes more than 6 months to get approval in UAE for different country, for other countries that do not have free trade agreement with UAE. So
Right.
these are very strategic movement when a importing country understand that what the exporting country can give it to me.
Hmm.
And India is actually taking lead in pharmaceuticals, chemicals, agriculture products, education,
Hmm.
also software professionals, for example, like CAs and CSs are going in Australia and UAE. Japanese developers are coming to India to develop certain products. So I think these Swift approvals, tariff are very, very big examples. But to get all those benefit, what the businesses need is the certificate of origin
Right.
from the uh, uh, country of origin. So I think this is going to be a good question for the participant, that okay, we are talking so much about free trade agreement, but how do we get benefit from
Hmm.
it? uh, so when when there's a discussion on the free trade agreement, the government of India put their agreements on the Ministry of Commerce website under uh, Directorate of Foreign Trade. You can get the complete agreement, and the type of services that can be availed from the trade agreement itself. And once you understand that these are the services that were negotiated in the agreement, and these are the products that can be export from one country to another country, you can make your checklist. And if you want to trade in the trade partners, you need a certificate of origin stating that of course I am the tax resident in India, I am the company registered in India, giving services in X or Y sector, and this is my facility in one particular location of India, and this is the raw material that I am taking from India. Everything should be comes from India only.
Certainly.
And and then the Ministry of Commerce, Directorate General of Foreign Trade, look at visit your facility, do their assessment, and after that, once they satisfy, they give you the certificate of origin. So you have to first satisfy the Indian government that okay, you want to take advantage of foreign trade agreement that you have signed with different country. And once you get this origin of certificate from Government of India, you can start trading with the different the country that has a FTA. But in this case, the importer also has certain obligations to do that we'll cover in a different slide. um, Another advantage is that you get some sort of protection, not all the protection in under the law, but when the free trade agreement get are negotiated, the partner countries actually feel that the their businesses should not get impacted if there is a criminal liability involved. So it protects you from expropriation, and also the jurisdiction of the civil court is almost nil, only for the execution, or if there's a dispute, then you can enforce your right. But the final adjudication generally happens uh, in the international arbitration tribunal, or outside both the countries at a neutral place. So India generally does all their investment treaty arbitration at permanent court of arbitration, Netherlands. So I think these are some advantages. If there is a question on this, I'm happy to take it. Otherwise, we'll move forward.
Certainly, so like businesses can gain several specific advantages by participating in free trade agreements, like market access, cost saving, increased export opportunities, and there are many more. And in essence of that, participating in free trade agreements can offer businesses a range of advantages, creating an environment conducive to growth, innovation, and international success. So, how do FTAs contribute to creating opportunities for market expansion and increased competitiveness?
Yeah, so good question. Uh, so, for example, you are just a business owner in India, and without any guidance, you are just doing business outside India in different countries. Um, you actually have no idea about how to do a marketing, what are your potential clients, what are your legal rights and obligation in a different country. And you are just doing everything on the basis of your personal contract, and also your associate or your agents in the different country.
Right.
But when sign a Indian government signs a free trade agreement, what they do is the Indian government also promote your business in that particular country. Okay, so again, the Director General of the international trade in India, uh, they also runs a program where Indian agriculture product get promoted. So Indian government is providing marketing uh, assistance, also the logistical assistance, because logistics takes a huge amount of your money. But when you do it from Indian government route, uh, presently it is only for agriculture product, but what I'm hearing is that Indian government is also planning to do it for other goods and services. Uh, it become very easy when you have a support of your own government in a different jurisdiction. Again, also free trade agreement also give an advantage of doing business in the public procurement system that you otherwise not able to do it if you're doing in non-FTA countries, or you are doing without the support of the government. So, for example, if the UAE government want to build a building, or in their infrastructure product, and if now we have a FTA with them, Indian engineering company, Indian infrastructure company can also go for their tender process. They can also bid for uh, the big projects in the UAE. So just because we have a FTA, and in that FTA we have discussed this, that once Indian company also become the member of the they want to do a business in a different country when we have where we have FTAs, the Indian government can facilitate this to the partner country, and your chances of getting tenders become little easier. So market access also become very easy for you, not just for the private sector, but for their own, for the government of the partnering country. Also, the business standards become very improved for you, for the exporting country, because now they have to maintain their products and services at international standards. And also because if you look at from the investment perspective, for example, if a foreign company want to set up in India, they give higher wages to the laborers in India, because they look at it from an international perspective. Okay, this is the minimum wage in India, but now the person is the employee of my facility. I want to give a certain advantage at the international standards and international rates. So it is also impact the employability of the this member of the specific countries as well.
Like FTAs create an environment for businesses to expand into new markets and enjoy preferential trade terms, and also enhance competitiveness through streamlined process and increased efficiency in the global marketplace. Moving forward, sir, as we all know that navigating free trade agreements can present challenges for businesses, but with strategic approaches, the obstacle can be effectively addressed. So, in your experience, what challenges might businesses encounter when navigating FTAs, and how can they address these challenges effectively?
Yeah, so again, a good question. What happens generally is lack of awareness is actually making problem for the Indian business owners to do business in partner countries. So if I just take a advantage here and show you this slide,
Mm.
what happens is that okay, we have discussed the India and X country has discussed the free trade agreement.
Yes.
The draft is also available online, on the website, but the business themselves become lazy. They are not looking at what are the discussion happened between two countries, and they are just waiting for the opportunities to come, rather than creating their own opportunities, and read the fine text of the agreement, and start taking actions in a certain manner. So the problem here is that when even when somebody start doing business, they totally lose sight on the local needs of an importing country.
Right.
Uh, Free trade agreement can only protect you to a certain level.
Mm.
Okay, but your reputation, your acceptability, and other factor is in your hand.
Mm.
So what happens generally is that when you are exporting something in the partner country, you should be aware of their local culture, become aware of their local laws. I give you an example. For example, certain symbols are, or certain products are not acceptable in another country. For example, swastik is, if you send something with a swastik mark in Germany, obviously the Germans get offended that why you are sending this to us. So, and they will put your the consignments in the watch in at their ports or at their airports, and then you have to pay a fee there. So
Mm.
it's going to impact your business. But why it happened? Because the Indian businesses are have not strategized in a manner that they understand the local nuances and cultures of a different country.
Right.
Another way of look at it is infringement of the intellectual property right. For example, uh, this happens more often in softwares and digital businesses, where company they thought that okay, we are sending something and nobody will notice that the software I'm using is not licensed, or what I'm sending is actually owned by someone else. So again, it's not a risk for you in the market, but it's a shameful situation for uh, the Indian government as well. I give you an example that, very recently what happened last to last year, Indian government banned some Chinese apps in on from the Play Store, including TikTok.
Correct.
After that, what happens is the Indian government also, identify some application, and they ban the app called Free Fire.
Hmm.
When they actually banned this app, they thought that, uh, it's a Chinese app, but the headquarters of this application was in Singapore, and India and Singapore has a free trade agreement. So Singapore government, reached out to the Indian government and say, Ki, why you have done this? And the Indian government, very in a very subtle way said that, this application was violating our public laws.
Hmm.
It was a threat to our public order, and threat for our children. So we thought to ban this. So for this is actually, now whatever the dispute is, they can adjudicate before the arbitration tribunal. But because this free fire application did not understand that, there are Indian laws that is going to impact their business. Ultimately, they are not doing business in India, and the matter is still going on in the diplomatic channels. It's not on the app store, it's not in the Android store. And it's a shameful situation for the company itself. So there are ways, and there are aspect that the businesses should aware before doing businesses in the partnering country. And quality, obviously, quality is very important. If you send a substandard, you show something else as a sample, but you start sending something else to the partner country, then also one can definitely sue for damages to you. And by the way, the damages law is very, very strong in countries outside India.
Right, truly, sir. Like by proactively addressing these challenges, businesses can position themselves to fully leverage the opportunities presented by FTAs while mitigating potential risks. Now,
Right.
shifting our focus to the FTA negotiation process, sir, how do government agencies and international cooperation play a pivotal role in the FTA negotiation process?
So tell him what happens is that FTAs actually take long, long years, more than decades, also sometime, just to negotiate the fine lines of the agreement. And how it all started is, the diplomatic relation, take a shape, become very cordial for one nation and a sour for another nation. For example, like Macron was in India last month. So he indicated that he want to do certain business with Indian companies. Now it's a initiation of some trade talks uh, with the government of India. Now, when this trade talks will go further, India and French government would think that, okay, we are doing a good amount of business. Why don't we enter into free trade agreement and start benefiting our own business groups in respective countries? So then they start negotiating. Another way of looking at is that, if a one country lacks resources and another country is rich in that, the partner country would say that, okay, you have X good or X service in your country. Why don't you give it to me, and in return I'll give you something else? So they start through their concerned ministry. And uh, then what the representative of both the governments sit together. After one round of negotiation, they come up with another round, and then they take some inputs from the industry. The industry chamber would also take part. Also, sometime closed room discussion happened where only industry chambers are allowed, or only the member of the companies are allowed. It is not in the public domain.
Hmm.
uh, so this is the way that trade negotiation happens. And generally it happens through various multi stakeholding way, because not one ministry can take the whole onus of negotiations. So Ministry of External Affairs is definitely a very important arm for the government of India to start the negotiation, but it actually, the Ministry of Commerce is the nodal agency in India that actually discuss all the trade agreements with different country. And finance ministry is very important because the flow of money is under the regime of the finance ministry. So, these three ministries are very, very important. India also has a permanent uh, representative in WTO. So WTO representative can also, become a consultant in this type of negotiations. A chamber also, I have already said that the chamber plays a significant role. Then when the news start coming in the public domain that okay, these type of negotiations are under discussion, then think tanks also start taking interest, and they start writing or start publishing report. Government of India also refer these reports and try to see that what are the other stakeholders, because these are very sensitive agreements and no government really want that there should be a loophole. So as far as possible they try to engage people from a different background, including the member of the civil society. For example, krishak Bharatiya Krishak Samaj is a very, very important organization in India. They are protesting against India EU free trade agreement because they thought that the farmer rights in India will jeopardize if India sign a agreement with EU.
Okay.
Third world nation is a classic example of how civil society take parts. These guys write reports on looking at different legal issues and publish in public at large for their knowledge. Yeah.
Yes. Also, I would like to shed a light on the pivotal role that Chamber of Commerce's play in the realm of free trade agreements. In our view, for the broader business perspective, at AECCI, we see FTAs not just as a legal frameworks, but as a catalyst for business growth. Like consider, for instance, the ASEAN-India FTA. It has not only increased the volume of trade between our member countries and India, but has also led to a diversification of product and services. And
Right.
one of the key roles of Chamber of Commerce in the FTA landscape is to serve a networking hub. We provide a platform for businesses to connect, explore partnerships, and navigate the complex web of international trade. Like through our events, trade missions, and networking sessions, we foster relationships that go beyond borders. So, to strengthen international trade relations, ACCI collaborates with Chamber of Commerce in other countries as well. And this collaboration is a two-way street that facilitates a smoother trade relations and enhances the global footprint of businesses associated with us. And the role of Chamber of Commerce in free trade agreement is multifaceted. Like we are facilitators, advocates, educators, and collaborators. And at AECCI, we are dedicated to empowering businesses to thrive in the global marketplace through strategic engagement with FTAs. So now,
Right.
moving forward, let's continue the discussion with the next question. That is, what are the some common mistakes or pitfalls that businesses should be aware of when participating in FTAs?
Yeah, I think I already explained that the quality issues, ignoring the local laws. Also, when there are some mistakes in filling up the form. So every document has a relevance,
Right.
and when the business owners think that they can do everything alone without taking the assistance of legal experts or the experts of a chamber, uh, they definitely end up losing their time and money in this process, and they really don't get anything in return.
Okay, thank you for the answer, sir. Could you also please share some examples of countries that have experienced a significant positive impacts due to successful participation in FTAs?
I think India and Japan are doing very, very good.
Hmm.
You must have seen that most of our big projects are actually we are taking consultation from a Japanese consultants infrastructure product. Also, India, Australia, fairly new FTA, but doing really good.
Hmm.
Uh, a good part is that it's not just related to the product and service,
Hmm.
but also I think for the first time the professionals can also take part in the free trade agreement and start giving their service in Australia. For example, Indian CAs and lawyers and also tax consultant can give their services in Australia. India UAE is also very good because UAE is a strategic business partner in the Middle East, and also a very old partner for India. And Indian, and they don't have a good manufacturing units of medicines. So I think Indian government is taking care of this region for their medicine supply through free trade agreement in UAE. So there are multiple examples actually. I have just picked up two or three.
Okay, your knowledge adds a great depth to our discussion. So the next question is, what legal implications might businesses face when engaging in international trade under FTAs, and how can they effectively manage these risks?
I think the legal risk is also, basis of ignoring the laws of the importing country.
Hmm.
Uh, Moralities are very, very important. Morality, every country has its own morality law. Like, you cannot say anything against Majibur Rahman of Bangladesh if you are doing business in Bangladesh.
Right.
So you have to, understand that, trade does not just happen on the basis of money or some, monetary benefits. You have to also, understand the sentiment of the people, and make your friend as your business partner is very, uh, I think is very simple. But if you offend them, they stop doing business with you. So understanding local law is very important. Quality, of course, very important. I think Argentina has done some trade agreement with EU, and they start sending raw banana to them. So a very classic case of a banana happened in, and it's going, I think, going on in WTO, or dispute settlement board.
Hmm.
So quality maintenance is very important. Ignorance of law, if again, like intellectual property, their public laws, mm, ignorance is actually going to be a very big pitfall for Indian businesses, and a vice versa. So I think what is the most important step here is that before doing business, understand what are the needs in different countries, because FTA can only protect you to a certain level, not your business but you from the liability.
And are there specific legal considerations that businesses should prioritize to ensure compliance and mitigate potential risk?
So there are, so every trade agreement has do's and don'ts. So uh, for example, when you take a certificate of origin from Indian government,
Hmm.
there are different documents that you have to give to the importer, and then on the basis of what the information you are giving to the importer will make their respective agencies aware that this type of goods and services are coming in my name. So these are certificates related to that, you are not uh, uh, violating, like and like for example, there are restrictions of animal experiments, so you cannot do animal experiments. So the importer can ask, can you give me the certificate if you are importing something to in my country, because in my country, if the product that has researched on animals is not acceptable. So it's just the example, but there are certain lists, like your whether your product are environmentally compliant, or whether your product has certification or national certifications
Hmm.
on in labor standards, like you are not violating your labor standards in the country. So these are the very, very important documents that you give to the importers, and importers has a right to ask you. If you don't have it, then importer, because no, it's a law in different country.
Hmm.
I give you another example that uh, now India and US don't have a FTA, but the international trade otherwise is happening with India and USA is very, very high. And when US companies invest in India, they look at whether the Indian companies are complying with the ESG regulation. So ESG regulations are environmental social governance,
Hmm.
that how many member from a disadvantaged background you have, whether women's are on the board of the company, or your manufacturing processes are environmental friendly, you have a transparency in decision making. So these are certain examples that companies should aware. But these are what I have given you are very high level examples, but once look at the each trade agreement in a detailed manner, you understand that what are the do's and don'ts.
Right. I appreciate your perspective, sir. Now, my last question is, how might emerging trends and geopolitical shifts impact the dynamics of free trade agreement in the future?
Yeah, so you must have heard that India and Canada was uh, negotiating a trade agreement for a very long time, but it's actually halted in between because something happened between India and Canada. Canadian government alleged that Indian government has assassinated uh, a extremist in Canada. So that it triggers uh, the controversy in both the countries, and they stop negotiating further. It has a multiplier effect. India the is also the Canadian partners in different region is
Hmm.
also thinking that to not further discuss the trade agreements with India. So this is a big diplomatic turmoil going on in between India and Canada, and it's going to impact the international trade as well.
Right. Like what a thought provoking session we have experienced today. And I believe each one of you have discovered the discussion with Mr. Rohit Kumar to be as enriching and enlightening as I did. We have explored a range of topics, delving into the intricacies of the role of free trade agreements in international trade. And in the realm of international trade, FTAs serves as a catalyst for growth, opening doors to new possibilities and fostering economic relationships across borders. Our distinguished speaker has shed light on the core principles underlying FTAs, unlike FTAs and illustrating how they eliminate barriers, also promote trade liberalization and contribute to global economic prosperity. So we have delved into the diverse types of FTAs from bilateral to multilateral agreements and understanding how businesses can strategically navigate their unique landscape, and the advantages of participating in FTAs were underscored, emphasizing the role they play in the market expansion, increased competitiveness, and job creation. So, however, no exploration is complete without acknowledging the challenges. We recognize the complexities that businesses might face, like from navigating regulatory landscapes to addressing supply chain disruptions, and how, with knowledge and strategic foresight, these challenges can be overcome. So, as the executive director of AECCI, I encourage each of you to apply the insights gained today to your respective endeavors. And FTAs are not just agreements, they are bridges connecting nations, fostering collaborations, and propelling economic growth. So, Mr. Rohit, could we please stop sharing our screen?
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Yes. So, on behalf of Asian Exporters Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I want to express our heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Rohit Kumar for sharing his wisdoms, insights, and addressing your questions comprehensively. His expertise has undoubtedly added tremendous value to our understanding on the trade horizons of free trade agreement. And as we conclude, I encourage you to reflect on the insights gained today and incorporate them into your business strategies. So moving forward, I am thrilled to announce that ACCI is committed to offering you more webinars covering a diverse range of topics. And we aim to collaborate with experts from various countries as well, believing in the transformative power of knowledge to foster connections and drive positive change. And the Asian Exporters Chamber of Commerce and Industry remains committed to supporting our members in navigating the dynamic landscape of international trade. Now, as we bring this insightful webinar to a close, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to each participant who has joined us today. Stay tuned for upcoming sessions as we continue to explore and learn together. Your ongoing support means a lot to us, and we eagerly anticipate welcoming you to our future webinars. So, once again, a very sincere thank you to you, Mr. Rohit, and for your time and encouragement. And we look forward to connecting with you very soon. And participants, thank you for joining, and I wish you all a wonderful day ahead. So, goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you.